And it just hit me one day that it was time for a transition in life, go work for someone else again for a while. And then I had that other transition just a couple of summers ago of, no, I think I could really go out and do on my own again and work with multiple people and feel like I can really help get their stories, their brands, their growth into the world in a better way. The beginning of this year truly came to, I think, a lot of moments people have had as well, desperation, where I said, help.
But you hear memories and really just sentimental moments, or just a really interesting, funny perspective on a meal or a certain type of dish that you wouldn't have thought of before. So each person has a really unique taste buds.
My therapist and I talk about this. She's like, why are the rules different for you? You know, why is it that you have to be at certain numbers or reaching more people or all these things? Like,
Entrepreneurship is still something that holds my heart dearly. It's how I met, the love of my life as well. And he's in the startup space. But I also recognize that food is something that really connects us, and we all do have our own perfect bites. All these connections can lead you to the funniest places in the world, and you just don't know. So don't be mean to anyone, because you just never know.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hospitality Bites. I am your host, self-proclaimed hospitality hustler, mompreneur, and founder of Hospitality Media, Colleen Silk. As you all know, I take great pride in highlighting individuals from all over our industry to give it the human side. My guests come from various professions around the world, including restaurateurs, bartenders, chefs, cookbook authors, those in the media space, and advocates. And today, I'm excited to introduce a fellow Cherry Bombe member. She is the founder of Perkins Creative Consulting, an independent marketing consultancy for the food and beverage industry, and the host of the Perfect Bite podcast, where she marries food and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Sarah Perkins.
Oh, Colleen, it is so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's so funny to be on this side of things.
That's what's so amazing is when I get on other people's episodes or podcasts, I feel the same way because I'm like ready to go, but I'm like, I got to wait for them to give me the cue to like jump right into it. And I'm just so happy that you were able to join me last minute. This is huge for me. I found you a few weeks ago and been trying to get in contact. I finally did it.
I love it. And this industry, especially online, is so good at just connecting with each other. Again, I have shot some shots that I didn't think would be responded to in the 6 months I've been doing this podcast. And it's just such a blessing. Truly, people, this is why I love working with anyone in food and bev in all various forms, is because they're just the nicest and hardest working people on the planet.
I agree. I think it's because I say this all the time, we are such human to human people, and we just like getting to know different walks of life. That's why we work in the industry, because there's not one same person. Like there's no carbon copy of any of us that work in this industry.
No. And like you said, I mean, there is no hospitality without the human touch. And whether you're in hospitality, let's say you're on the food production side, supply chains, and you're thinking about how the world is getting nutritious, amazing food, you're caring about people that way. Or even if you're a food tech founder and you're trying to solve problems for people who are consistently trying to use tech in restaurants, which is crazy. This is why I just love talking to everyone and anyone. And cookbook writers, like you said, too. It's a whole other realm of being an entrepreneur when you have the media side of things coming into play.
And definitely, like I hate the word imposter syndrome because I have really worked hard on not saying that I have it, because I do belong in this space. But going into food media from being a front of house restaurant person and consultant was quite a leap of faith for me. But I've had so much fun these last few years and evolving the media space as it changes. Like you just said, like food tech is a real thing. Like who would have thought 10 years ago that you could be a techie in food? And now that's a whole division of our industry.
Yeah. And I love the folks too who are like, okay, now there are 600 million tools, and let's now try to narrow those down and actually start to connect them to each other. So I love everyone in this industry. I feel almost the opposite from you, where I've had very little actual restaurant experience myself, but I've been on the other side of things where I understand what people like, or maybe how storytelling works, or how to
Mm.
reach someone. And it just happens to be that I fell in love with food and bev. So I definitely feel that where it's, yes, I love everything you're doing, but I could never say, you know, I'm more sympathizing. I'm just excited when I hear someone talk about their day staging or things like that. I'm like, that's awesome. I've never done that myself. However, I can't wait for other people to hear how you took that and leveraged it and turned it into the life you have now.
Well, it's so fun that you said that because I want to jump right into what is your background that kind of drew you into this food hospitality industry space?
Yes. So it took a little bit of a journey to get here. You could say that. So my first actual taxed job was as the phone girl at my local pizzeria, Ferrantino's. So I was back of house taking orders, sometimes helping pick basil, but not actually making food, but had a customer facing position from that standpoint of things. You could say that I've always loved storytelling. I
Mm.
always loved writing as a kid. Getting into high school, I even loved helping edit my peers' papers and realized I liked the analytical side of things that way. So when I went to college, it's funny that I ironically went to Silicon Valley wanting to go into print publishing. I left
Okay.
Chicago to go into print publishing. So I was that young millennial girl who was trying to chase the Jennifer Garner dream that you saw on 13 going on 30 or any other piece of media, Carrie Bradshaw, all of it.
Mhm.
I, needed to escape the Midwest, studied marketing and English out at Santa Clara in the Bay Area and came home and did enter print publishing very quickly. My first job out of college was actually at a magazine called Professional Roofing because
Ooh.
everyone needs their tiger stripes and
Yes.
trade magazines were hiring. Then I found my way as I was getting my master's in journalism at DePaul. I did find my way to lifestyle journalism, which I really wanted to do. So I was interning, freelancing, and helping with the magazines for modern luxury out of Chicago.
Yes.
There used to be a brand of magazines called Where. It was worldwide. It was hotel concierges would give it out. It would be in your hotel rooms. It would be in different tourist areas. So I was on the editorial team for Where Chicago, and there were change ups at the magazine. Things were going crazy. They brought in
Mhm.
a who had never done publishing in his life. And funnily enough, I had reached a goal that I had set to myself. I want to be an editor before 30. I get offered to do that as I had already been starting to work on a startup idea. And I
Mm.
actually turned him down and said, I'm going to go work on my company instead. So, other side of lifestyle here went from writing about food and restaurants, things to do in the city of Chicago, to a fashion rental startup a little early for its time. It was peer to peer, essentially, if Airbnb and Rent the Runway had a baby. We
How
started,
fun.
it was so fun. So women were renting designer pieces from their closets to each other across the country. We were just a little too early. And so
Mm.
we happened to be, we didn't know it yet either. I think the pandemic would have actually killed us. So
Oh.
ended up leaving 2019. Can always go into that as well. Big part of it was if you have a co-founder or a co-owner of anything, it's like a marriage. And
Right.
I wasn't in a good marriage, to say
Mhm.
the
It
It-
happened.
we were not on the same page, and you have to be on the same page and have the same vision and motivations for why you're doing a business together. So it led me to working with other startups, and luckily, those ended up being in food. And one of them was Here Market, which is an amazing platform out of Chicago. It ships nationwide. It works with food creators in the CPG space so that you can have a conglomerate of all of these amazing CPG products in one spot and have it shipped to you.
Mhm.
Worked on a food tech platform that was essentially trying to figure out how to be an AI concierge for folks.
Mm.
And it did lead me here today. So had become a marketing consultant in that time, saying I want to work with multiple folks, not just one team. Started working with folks like the Trotter Project, a nonprofit out of Chicago, giving scholarships to kids in culinary arts, hospitality, and agriculture. Became a social media consultant for a distillery here out of Columbus. And beginning of the year, yeah, just hit that spot in the portfolio where I said, I've got to do
Why not?
something. What's going on here? And I realized I've always loved talking with people. Look at me, I just yapped for like 3
Who
minutes.
cares?
And I thought through what has my career led to. Entrepreneurship is still something that holds my heart dearly. It's how I met, the love of my life as well. And he's in the startup space. But I also recognize that food is something that really connects us, and we all do have our own perfect bites. So the perfect bite is a perfect bite of the value chain of food, bit of a perfect bite of my career to date. And it's also my favorite and the world's best and hardest question that I ask people. But you hear memories and really just sentimental moments or just a really interesting, funny perspective on a meal or a certain type of dish that you wouldn't have thought of before. So each person has a really unique taste buds. And that's how we end each episode.
I love that. Well, one, I know Wear magazine really well because company I used to work for, we were one of the original print ads in Wear.
Oh my gosh.
The Berghoff is the oldest restaurant in
Yes.
Chicago, and they used to do weddings and events and things. And I remember when I started, I did not know anything about advertising. Like, I was such a restaurant person, but because of their business and how well known they were and all of what they did, I really had to understand a whole different part of restaurants I'd never been exposed to before, especially in a
Yeah.
city like Chicago. Like, it is cutthroat. You gotta know people to know someone. I mean, I don't know if you just heard, but Phil Stefani's opening a restaurant in the Vatican. Did you hear about
Yes.
this? Isn't
Yeah.
that wild?
I mean, not a Catholic myself, despite going to 2 Catholic universities.
You went to DePaul. So
I
funny.
went to Paul and Santa Clara. So, when the last pope passed away, I was like, "Oh, man, he was a Jesuit." We kinda liked the Jesuits. They think about things a little bit friendlier, I like to think, and then seeing a pope elected from Chicago.
I know. I was telling her you earlier, my mom's from the South Side, and, there was the big divide if he's a Cubs or a Sox fan and, like, taking
Dick
stake
socks.
over who gets him. But, yeah, I saw that Phil Stefani's opening a restaurant there.
Isn't that amazing? Just again, like you said, all these connections can lead you to the funniest places in the world, and you just don't know. So don't be mean to anyone because you just never know.
Hey, this is Colleen,
And this is Sarah Perkins.
and you're listening to Hospitality Bites featuring Sarah Perkins. What I loved about doing the podcasting is, like you said, you like reach out to people and just want to see what happened. And for me, I've had the same kind of success in reaching out to people that have now been really influential into where I am now with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I had a really kind of interesting navigation through the hospitality industry. It wasn't the kindest to me. And I definitely had that burned out mentality, and I had to face some significant hurdles of my own. You kind of touched on this a little bit for you navigating your entrepreneurial journeys with your
Yeah.
startups and having to make a decision. What do you think really pushed you to take a leap of faith in this moment, outside of just leaving your partnership?
Gosh. To the podcast today or just
Just
deciding then that
deciding what was next for you, moving on.
my goodness, this is where I do think tech and hospitality can have a huge crossover is burnout. And I know you do such amazing work with mental health organizations within the industry. I was just not myself.
Mm,
I don't know how to put it is I loved the mission we were doing. It felt within my bones. I loved building something. And so I think that's why I've continued to either
yeah.
be part of startup teams or then I was like, okay, no. I got to go and do my own thing again where I'm helpful to other people, but it's still mine. I can still protect this space. And we were growing. I was trying so many things. I was so young too. I was
Mhm.
25, 26 when we first founded it. Um, and even though we put so much importance on these 30 under 30 lists or,
Oh,
these people having these exited companies so early in life, in reality, your frontal lobe has barely just
I
formed
know.
completely. And, we're not our parents' generations where they were having kids and families, say, by 28, 30 years old. We're taking our times and really exploring our careers. So I was learning what it was like not only to be a manager, got to work with a partner in a legal sense, and have to make extremely big decisions, very costly decisions. We had to lay off the team at one point too, just because we were running low on cash and figuring out what can we do on our own. But I also loved those moments of being just so extremely scrappy. Sometimes I was the delivery driver driving things around the city. I'd go on live TV early in the morning and get the message out there as well as I could to folks. I loved also working both sides of my brain. So if you're a writer, you get all this great creativity, but maybe a little bit less of the analytics, unless you're in, say, publishing from that standpoint at that time. But then I got to marry both sides of my brains and I was firing on all cylinders. So truly, it just came down to knowing it just wasn't the right fit for me anymore. If business, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, if it had been in a different reality, a different universe, different people involved, different money, just like restaurants, it takes a lot of money and you're not earning anything back for a long time, if ever.
Right.
You're taking that gamble. And it just hit me one day that it was time for a transition in life, go work for someone else again for a while. And then I had that other transition just a couple of summers ago of, no, I think I could really go out and do on my own again and work with multiple people and feel like I can really help get their stories, their brands, their growth into the world in a better way. The beginning of this year truly came to, I think, a lot of moments people have had as well, desperation,
Mm.
where I said, help, I had this client. It was my biggest paying client. It suddenly disappeared. They just kind of ghosted in a lot of ways. And I said, I know. That's also the caveat is be careful of who you work with in startups and restaurants because it's tough too. It's no one's perfect. Everyone's trying to work through hard problems, but you got to be careful about where you get burned. And this has been one of the most joyful things I've done since my own startup. And I knew that's when this was something special.
Well, you had Sally on a few weeks, or it was just last week. Was she on? I
A
don't
couple of weeks
recall.
ago.
Yeah.
Yes. He was another just Instagram shouted, reached out and was like, hey, you look like you're doing cool stuff. And you looked cute at the James Beard Awards.
Isn't she lovely?
Incredible. An incredible woman. She took the dream I had as, younger being like, oh, should I go into publishing? And she actually ran with it.
And she's a mom and a single mother and adores her daughter. And I love just watching her grow. She said something on my podcast. I had suffered a miscarriage and she was my first guest right after. And I haven't shared it publicly yet. Because of her is why I'm on this adventure I am with creating a documentary, is because she let me share my story, even though the podcast was about her and what she was working on. And she just allowed me to say it out loud. And it's it's curious how people come into your life at different times and you don't know. And she said something that she doesn't like the word pivot because instead of pivoting, it's more of like a transition. And you said that now twice. A pivot's different than a transition. Like it's being aware that it's time to do something different and transition to this new version of yourself. And I just think she's an incredible person. Her mother's story is wonderful. I mean, she cooked
So
alongside
cool.
Julia Child, right? And it's just when she said her mother held a record for the most cookbooks, Guinness World Record, I was like, that's
I didn't know that.
wild. Isn't that wild?
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, it's just like this random fact about her mom. I don't know how we even got on it, but it's just so cool to hear. And this is what she's doing now with her life. And she took her mom's business and she's molded into this next thing. And, to hear her talk on your show, I think was just so lovely that I can tell that you have joy in this. Like you can see that you're enjoying having conversations with people in our industry from all different sectors. So you're doing an incredible job for never working, quote unquote, in restaurants or whatever people want to say it is. Hospitality, it should be a universal thing among all businesses, right? Like it's a human connection and sharing with people. And you clearly are a natural storyteller. And when you're a writer, you love to express things, right, in a creative way. This is just a different format of storytelling. And it's not pen to paper, it's audio. So I think you're doing a great job. I think you're navigating it quite well.
You're so sweet. Thank you. And again, I have to remind myself these things take so much time too. And I would not be this hard on anyone else. My therapist and I talk about this. She's like,
So
why are the
good.
rules? She's like, why are the rules different for you?
Mhm.
Why is it that you have to be at certain numbers or reaching more people or all these things? Like, again, 6 months in, as we're recording this is coming out a few days just later. Like, people ask me all the time, oh, have you monetized yet? Have you gotten all these things? And I'm like, no, I'm not even allowed in the marketplace yet.
Mhm.
And so the more I can just keep pushing and trying, I'm hoping it will get there. And I'm just inspired by all of the people that have already started podcasts and different things in the space, because it just proves that we need to all keep pushing, all keep going. There is no such thing as overnight success. Anyone I've known is years, and people say, oh, but I just heard of that brand or I just heard of that person. I said, okay, but they launched it 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And it's determination and having just enough fun, keep yourself going, keep the lights on. And
Right.
that's how you make it farther. But my dream is to just help share all of these other people's amazing stories, because each one, even if someone on the other side might say, oh, that was kind of boring for me, or I didn't connect to it as much, I'm like, I learned something every single time.
You just hit the nail on the head. It's not about what other people are getting from it. Like, or if you're taking something away from it that brings you joy and that conversation made you feel a certain way, then you did your job the right way, right? Like, you did a good job if you feel something at the end of it. And what's hard about podcasting, and for those that are listening, there's a statistic that says people typically only produce 10 episodes and they quit because of the amount of work it takes
Yeah.
to find people to join you on the show, to actually have a conversation that's worth listening to. Like, also, are you boring yourself talking to these people? Are you just a talking head? And then people get so infatuated with the numbers, right? You said that, like, what are your numbers? What are you doing? How are you monetizing?
Yeah.
Those people that hit it rich, it's lightning in a bottle. It's hard to replicate that. And they were in the right place at the right time. But there's a place for where we belong too, because we're also interviewing people that are just everyday, regular, wonderful people doing something good in our industry. And they
Yeah.
don't necessarily always get the availability that's offered to some of these other people that are in the media space. I talk pretty openly about, I love Food Network, but those people also did their dirty work to get
Yeah.
where they are. Like, I say that not in a negative way. I mean, like, they had to get dirty to get there.
Hard.
And
They
it's not
did
easy.
years.
Right. And
They
then you're
didn't.
held to a higher standard than most people.
Yeah. And at that point, too, their brand really is just their personal brand.
Mhm.
And they might cook a little bit still here and there. And I'm sure some of them might say, like, I miss some of those days.
Mhm.
You hear that from some tech entrepreneurs who have made it big as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So one of the reasons I still am obsessed with my numbers and need to calm down a little is I was held to so many years as well when I was
Mhm.
investors. And especially as a woman, I had to know everything, top to front, back to top down,
Yeah.
back front, anything about the industry, my competitors, the potential market, all of these things. And so now I'm sitting here going, okay, what's my potential market? How am I
Mhm.
researching? It serves me in some ways because it allows me to figure out really what's a business plan around a media brand like this.
Mhm.
And then it doesn't serve me because I'm using essentially false success statistics to push me forward. And like you said, any of the folks that we're talking to, nothing came easily.
Mhm.
If you're thinking of podcasters, who are big now, let's think of, Las Culturistas, one of my favorites, Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers. It's been, I think, 8 years for them
That's
though.
crazy.
And they've been like hustling. Another
Mhm.
one of my favorites that's Bravo focused called Sexy Unique Podcast, 8, 9 years, I think. Like, it takes a really long time. And then you've just got celebrities. They already did other type of work.
Right.
Podcasts are number one because of their name.
That's their brand.
Yeah.
So their brand sells. It's so important to put yourself in the position of your level of what's successful to you. I used to be afraid of I'll be honest. I don't make millions of dollars off of this, but I really love doing it. And that's why I paused and stopped so many times, because when I started to feel like I wasn't enjoying having conversations, I had to step away because my life was happening. My real life was happening. And so I just restart it again. And when I started to accept that it's okay to pause in your life and in business, makes life a lot happier. Like it's because you're not putting this pressure of, I got to get my podcast out. I got to get these numbers. I have to make sure my downloads reach a certain number or it's not worth it. If it reaches one person, it reached one person
Yes.
and
And that
hopefully enjoyed
person
it.
might become your biggest fan and they're a
Mm,
stranger. And suddenly you're like, wow,
mhm,
you know, all these new friends, essentially. I love, again, this community. And when people reach out, it's the coolest thing in the world. I'm like, I don't know you. How did that happen?
Well, and that's what's also so fun. So we're both members of Cherry Bomb. What drew you to Cherry Bomb? What was it the name? Was it the logo, the
Mm.
magazines? What brought you in?
Oh gosh, I've been hearing about it for a couple of years from
Okay.
other women in the industry and, really took a look and said, if I want to be even more serious than I have been, be of service to others, connect with new people, put myself out there, maybe that's the biggest through line I've had this year is
Mm,
shooting the shot and putting myself out there more than maybe on the inside I'm comfortable with. So I
mhm,
joined Cherry Bomb so that I could have access not only to the great resources like the classes that we've talked about, the webinars, the conferences, but to be able to follow along too with other women who are doing something similar or even different within the food and beverage industry, be able to cheer them on and figure out how can we work together.
mhm,
At the end of the day, I'm always trying to figure out what's a good collaboration, what's a win-win here, and that's really what inspired me to join. The team's been so wonderful too when I've reached out.
mhm. Yeah, I found them because of Sally, actually. And she's like, I think you should check out Cherry Bomb. And so I did, and I joined, and they've been so wonderful. Even when I lost my job, I was pregnant a year and a half ago, 2 years now, I guess. He's almost, I don't know, however old he is, but lost my job and I reached out to them and I said I wouldn't be able to stay on. They couldn't have been kinder about it. And they said, when you're ready, we're here for you. And so I rejoined recently and I'm so grateful that I did because, like you said, the women that are in it come from all different walks of life, right? Like
Yeah.
from all over the country. It's so nice to talk to people that you wouldn't normally maybe get to be in the same room with, or you wouldn't think that you deserve to be in the same room with, which is not true. Everyone deserves a space at the table, right? Like that's a real thing. And for me, I love the industry so much that I love getting to talk to other people that are just as passionate about it. And no matter what part of the sector you're into it, there's a something keeps pulls you into it to want to help it evolve and grow and be a part of telling the story.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, on that Substack webinar today, you had recipe developers and cookbook writers and things I've never done personally myself, but I'm always so interested to learn from someone else. And I think that's where passion really pushes people is the
Mhm.
more you want to keep learning, then that's when you're onto something. If you're, like you said, not really doing anything to help yourself grow, just kind of going through the motions, then that's probably not the right space or position for you to be doing anymore.
And so when I was in Chicago, I was a part of like networking groups because of my job. And then the pandemic happened and the world shut down. And
Yeah.
I did kind of feel lost because I just found networking. I had never really been a networking person, but my
Right.
dad is a big networker and he's a part of like several groups, now retired, but I realized how important networking is. And I consider this like another opportunity of networking when you're part of like a group like Cherry Bomb or your local commerce, especially when you're trying to grow your business and reach people and just, pick people's brains. I've definitely found the value in networking, especially for podcasting in like hospitality space. Like there's a huge group of us that exist and it's fun to get to have conversations. That's one of the reasons I reached out to you is like, I want to know why she's doing this. Like, why did you jump into podcasting? And to hear that you wanted to go to school for publishing, found yourself through the tech sector, and now you're here is really wonderful.
I was like, it is funny how life takes us through all these
Mhm,
little curves. And thank you. It's nice to hear it put that way because I'm sure other people, yourself, probably related to this as well, is that I have some wonderful friends who have either been with the same companies or the same type of position. They've just grown up the ladder and they're extra specialists in their space and
mhm,
it's paid off and they're showing it. And that seems almost like what's typically laid out for us when we're children, right? Is
mhm.
you choose something you like and you're going to do that thing for the rest of your life and you're just going to be really good at it and you'll get paid for it. And
I know.
one, that's propaganda.
I have so
We
many
were
thoughts on what you just said.
if we were all paid for hard work, then we'd all be in better positions here. Sadly, that's a whole other rant. But there are times when I'm so grateful for the privilege and the opportunities I've had to have the path I've had. And there are other times I've felt kind of out of the loop, or
Mhm.
maybe like I'm not further along as my peers, or maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Like do people think I hop about then? I think that's also imposed by some older generations of,
Mhm.
well, if you don't stay at a place forever and ever, you must not be reliable. And it's more just figuring out what really fits. And some of those opportunities too, if you're working with restaurants or early stage startups, again, the connection there is no guarantee to any of those lasting forever. So sometimes it was just, well, that didn't work out. That shut down. That ran out of money. So it was time for the next thing. And it is a blessing, though. It is still just something I have so much gratitude for, to be able to do something despite it, like you said, not making me millions and millions of dollars right
Mhm.
now. Maybe one day, but we'll see. Maybe it's going to be multiple things that just result in a really fulfilling, happy, holistic career.
I think being happy is a huge part of accepting to be happy is also a level of success, right?
Yeah.
That was never I wasn't necessarily taught that. I was taught, like you said, like there's this path you have to take, and happy is great if you get it, and you're lucky if you get it. But I think that happy is a level of success, and this makes me happy. Like I love getting to chat with you, and you seem to have kind of the same mindset of jumping around. Was like, oh God, they're just not stable people. Like they can't keep it
Right?
together. But my industry is not a stable industry to be in. So this is what I have to do to move up the ladder. I had to keep going to different places and trying new things to see where I could land.
Yes. And I'm happy to, again, you're a new friend, and I'm happy to see that you love this so much that you took the proper steps for your own mental health, for your limitations, your boundaries. I admire that so much, to say, I got to come back to this at some other time.
Hmm.
This is not something that I can have on my plate right now. Because especially as women too, we're just taught, just do it all with a smile, do it all looking pretty, and never bother anyone along the
Nope.
way. And that's impossible. What they always say, the whole, put your own air mask on a plane if it were to happen before you help others. And it's not as taught, especially in this country.
It's
If
an
we go
afterthought.
other places, like you said, happiness is such a beautiful meter and metric of success for some of these other countries that we see. And it's just not how we were brought up. So I'm glad that the more conversations we have about this, the more that we can break through some of these cycles and hopefully end up being kinder to each other too.
I'm wearing a shirt that says choose kindness
You look
because
perfect.
I believe it so much. Being a mother to a little girl,
Yeah.
I am working really hard to do something. So should she enter restaurants or hospitality, it's a safer place for her. It's more
Yes.
inclusive. She can say what she wants and not be belittled for it or be reprimanded for it. Relationships are huge, understanding how to have a relationship in our industry specifically. It's not really a conversation. Like people just hang out together and you're dating and you don't really get to know anyone outside of what you know in your little bubble. And that can be really dangerous. And I don't know what happened to me to take me out of the path I was supposed to be on, but I'm so glad it did. And like I've had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, but I'm having a lot of fun now and I'm well into my 30s. Like I was not a happy person when I look back at my early 20s. I thought I was killing it. I was not. I was a mess. Such
Or
a
on the,
mess.
or on the outside, everyone's like, wow, you look so great on social media.
Mm.
And I'm like, cool, that was the unhappiest time in my life.
Is that when
Or
you were doing your clothing swap? Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause you
And
had to build that image, right, of you're selling the experience?
I'm,
Mhm.
the young woman CEO, and that was just part of my job. It wasn't like, cool, Sarah's going to get famous. It was, how are we going to push this as hard as possible? How are we going to
Mm.
reach the audience? Who's the right person to go out and sell the story here?
Right.
And it just felt, it sounds like it was all about experience. It wasn't, because, you know, I learned so much, and I did have so many cool, amazing moments and memories I can look back on. But in terms of just the environment I was in and what I allowed to happen and not feeling comfortable, like I could stand up for myself or recognize that there were just things I was experiencing being that young, just really took a toll on me. And,
Sure.
no one likes to hear, they put a headshot of you out there and then someone's commenting that I would hit that. Maybe. And you're like, maybe.
I
But then,
know.
some older men, there were a lot of like just situations with older men basically putting me down or acting like this wasn't an addressable market. This wasn't a real idea because it wasn't something a man would do. I once even like essentially was called a prostitute by someone because they thought because I had this older male co founder who had been a friend of my father's that I must be wanting to come after him and his money at some point. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm working really, really hard on this, but I'm glad to
Oh,
see that misogyny is alive and well.
how unfair, right? Like I think that if for men to like when I talk to my dad a lot about this.
Yeah.
He's like, I would never talk that way to you, Colleen. I can't believe that you experienced those things. And I go, but it happens. It's real. And he goes, but what if they're dad? I go, Dad, they could be dads. They could be husbands. But when they're out of sight, out of mind, sometimes people just say things that they would not normally say in another environment. And the restaurant industry we are just known for that. Like that is
Tough
part of the
language.
culture.
Yeah.
And that's how the grown-ups behave. And I talk about this where the grown-ups in the room were behaving badly. So the next generation, they pick
Yeah.
up those tips or those, not those tips, excuse me, pick up those like quips and things. And they think it's appropriate. And for you as a young woman in a startup, how one offensive, but like two, to put someone down, no matter what your sex is, about working hard and making you feel a certain way and then making you second guess yourself. Like, I think it's just so shameful to make people second guess anything they've ever done or they've ever worked towards.
Yeah. I never have understood where someone feels like it's a good idea or what they really get out of it if they're saying something bad. So I will just say it was again full of lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just everything I've read and heard from folks. It sounds like restaurants, some folks are trying to change, but it's going to take cycles, right? It's going to take a long time to get out of that level. And it does take all of us continuously talking about these things too, to
Uh-huh.
say some things are not appropriate to say or do to
Yeah.
other people because it
Like I
was
have,
done to you.
right.
Doesn't mean you can keep doing it to others. It's very much if you were bullied as a kid, oh, maybe I'll be a bully as an adult. No, how about you do the opposite?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what happens. And we just continue to be in this time. It's been probably about a decade now that there's just been like this rise of, I don't think I'm going to be nice to other people. And that breaks my heart. So the more that I can talk to people who are just so excited about what they're doing, and we could all say, let's put our voices behind things that matter and that bring happiness to other people, even if maybe it seemed shallow in some cases, but it brings happiness. So that's what I'm going to keep pushing.
I think that's so lovely. I think that our learned and lived experiences absolutely make who we are. But as I've gotten older, I just say that they're not moments that define me. They were defining moments at that time because I'm not the person I was when I was 22 or 23 or 24. And I'm grateful for those experiences because they got me to where I am. I didn't love those experiences, but it is what it is. But I know what I don't want to be, and I don't want to be that person that was afraid to speak their mind or say anything. And it sounds like you were very similar in that those lived experiences have shaped you to want to do things that are nice and kind and put positivity out into the universe in some capacity in this form of art outside of what you went to school for to where you are now.
Yes.
You should be proud of yourself with this the way you navigated this different part of success.
Thank you. And I like to think it all built up to each other, right? We can't
Mhm.
have that. We can't be the people we were today if we didn't go through things then. And something I've been trying to do, I just turned 35 a couple weeks ago,
Happy
which
birthday.
feels, thank you. It feels like big numbers as we keep getting
Mhm.
along here. I've tried to give the younger me a hug and say, like, I know you made mistakes, or maybe you didn't handle things you wish you could have now, but you had to do it that way. You just didn't know any differently. So I'd love for us all to keep doing that for the next generation too. I always get kind of excited when maybe a college age or just out of college age woman is like, hey, I just need a mentor talk, or I'm looking to connect with someone because I'm looking for the next job. I'm like, oh, I remember what that was like.
That's so
What's
funny.
the slang you guys are using now?
I cannot. My nephew says things. I'm like, I actually have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've heard we have two nieces who are teenagers. So we were like, what is Gen Alpha saying? And they're like, things about, or, aura. There's
Mhm.
aura points. And I was like, okay, I know what an aura is. So I kind of get that. Then there's other words that I was totally off on. I'm like, this is funny. This is like this is what it's like to be on this side.
He'll text me things and I will respond thinking I'm funny. And he's like, no, Colleen, we don't talk that way. I'm like, what? Come on, that was funny. He's like, no, we don't communicate that way. They,
You're
like,
hilarious. He's just not getting it yet.
that's what my sister says to him. My sister and I are very funny people. He's just jealous of our charisma and our ability to throw shade.
Yeah, you're Riz.
Yeah. That'll make him cringe that I just said that.
I think I was told that that's too old now too. But
Oh, is cringe too old? See,
Riz, I think might be on the out. I don't even know.
well, that's your charisma.
Yes, your
Yeah.
Riz, your charisma. So
Like
I think
7'8"
he's
is
got
a
plenty.
thing. I don't even know what that means.
Did you see my face go blank? I was like, does it mean like you ate with your outfit? Because I know what that.
See, it possibly could mean that.
Oh, like like you ate.
So I've heard him say that. Like, and there's things where he would be dying. Like, I hope he listens to this because he'll be coming and calling you so embarrassing.
What was the clip that you
Yeah, I'll
put on
send it
social
to him. But like when people dine out in restaurants, I like for a younger generation that dine out in restaurants, I hope that they start to dine with their eyes again versus their phones. And for me, it's just like they're missing what we're serving. Like, and that sounds like some sort of like slang in itself, but I talk about that a lot of I hope that they get to experience restaurants the way that I fell in love with restaurants and communicating with people and getting to share experiences. That's the other thing I love that you're doing with your podcast is you're highlighting chefs and culinary professionals and sharing this is why they love what they're doing. You hope that a younger generation hears that. Like they really take so much pride in what they're doing. Who has been like your favorite, I would say, culinary guest so far, or the conversation you love the most that has talked about their passion for this?
Oh my goodness. It is actually hard to choose one of my babies from the 35 recordings that I've done to date.
Incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will say, without saying his name yet, because his episode will come out probably October, getting closer to November. There is a chef out of Cleveland who I spoke with yesterday. And his inspirations, he is self-taught. He just started 2 years ago. He looks Michelin starred level. I think this guy is the future. He is in his
Wow.
he's made a shift from tech to just saying, actually, I really love this. His creations on the plate, I stopped in my tracks again on Instagram because he did a shortbread cookie with ice malt in the center, very stained glass with edible flowers. It was so simple and so beautiful. I said, this is the most beautiful cookie I've ever seen. And I looked at his other photos and I said, this guy looks like he's staged places. What the heck is going on? I found out has staged at Boca, but again, just in the last 2 years. And so he has a panna cotta bust that he puts on a plate with, and I'm like, this is actually art. And he told me all of his actual artistic inspirations, including that the shortbread cookie recipe was from the 1500s in Italy.
Of
And
course
he
it
just
was.
brought it to the modern age. I said, how did you even find that? Like, how do you find the resources, inspiration? And so I've loved everyone I've talked to truly. And again, my dear, one of those intergenerational conversations, Norman Van Aken coming on, and how I met him earlier this year has just been such a dream to have him as a friend and mentor, and his inspirations, because he was the man who first said fusion
Isn't that
in
crazy?
Bullock's kind of cooking. It's like, what do you mean? And he said, and he's also a very literary person, beautiful Substack. But again, he's gotten his inspiration from centuries ago as well. And so anytime someone tells me that they've really taken the time to research something, to me, it's also like a fashion designer, but it's the culinary artist side of things. And so that's why I've always loved that the two of them tend to go hand in hand. Fashion and food is, the entire focus on where that inspiration came from. And it's something that I hope we continue to live up to. Someone else I spoke to this week was like, well, we need to all keep learning and inspired from different places, or else we're all going to make the same viral feta
Mhm.
pasta you see on TikTok. And so I'm hoping that food doesn't become essentially algorithmic and that there are still these analog sources that folks turn to, even if they're seeing it on LexisNexis or something on their computer. I was like, this is the call for libraries to like get more funding, because this is where people find inspiration, and your life is changed when you have a bite like that.
Mhm.
You have a meal like that put in front of you. Yes, you wanna take a picture, but then you put it to the side.
Mhm.
You're like, "I can't believe I get to eat this." So, that is my long-winded way of saying I don't
No.
really have one person, but there are ways that people creatively think that my brain just does not work that same way, and so I just find it incredible that they're on this earth.
I'm so lucky to be an ambassador at the Burn Chef because talking to my fellow ambassadors that are chefs, the way that they talk about food, I literally could eat whatever you're talking about, I will eat it. I don't care because of they were burnt out at one point, right? That's why we become ambassadors. Is like the industry kind of burned us at a place. But for those that are still in it, that are still cooking and they're cooking what they love now and they're not cooking to what is viral or what's trending, is my favorite thing about our industry. When you find those people that they just love what they do from every part of it, and it's like their love on a plate. I call food a universal love language
Yes.
because it truly transcends languages, no matter where you are. And I wish I could travel more. Like that's my dream, is to be successful so I can take my children to go eat food in other parts of the world, to experience everything. It's just I love food. I love it so much. Um, it brought me my family. It's the restaurant industry is why I have what I have. And yeah, I really just hope that this generation, as much as it is fun to take viral videos, like you said, try something different. Go
Yes.
enjoy dinner with your friends, talk.
Yes. This is why that we need to stand up for our fellow peers just in this country coming from other countries right now more than ever. I mean, you wouldn't have the incredible food that you have today without immigrants and
Mhm.
without folks who are coming to the US. I mean, just the incredible culture that you get to have through food. I was a Midwesterner. My parents were very into what was quick and simple and,
Mhm.
easy, and meat and potatoes and cheese and
And
that,
that's okay too.
and comfort food. When you get to experience like what is authentic Mediterranean, what's a new Filipino dish that you get to try for the first time. My boyfriend Tim and I were in Mexico City earlier this year and ate dishes that were just so gorgeous and incredible. So the fact that anyone is trying to say that we shouldn't all be coming together and that we should be as separated as possible in this world doesn't really make sense to me at all, because when we all come together, a lot more goodness happens.
Mhm.
And we get to share it with each other. So I know this all sounds a little cheesy itself, but it does make me smile when you think of people who are just inspired by something totally different.
I
Or else
agree.
if we were all the same, it would be incredibly boring. Homogeny is very boring.
I mean, I married someone completely opposite of myself. We are not even close in any way, shape, or form. I didn't want him to even talk to me. That's how much I was like, I don't like this guy. But it's true. And different is cool, I think. And we've also instilled in our daughter that uniqueness is like a very special thing. Like, don't lose what makes you unique. Don't lose your sparkle, whatever it is. And, I love that our generation really is encouraging our children to be the most special, authentic version of themselves. And I do think that translates to us as parents and wanting to be authentic too, and like authentic grown-ups. And I was to say, so for you, like what's next? Like you started this podcast, you had your firm, you've done the tech thing. What is your hope for you? What is next?
I want to keep growing this as big as I can make it
Mm.
in terms of connection and in terms of helping people whose stories need to be out there in the world. so that they can smile and be inspired by others as much as possible. So, figuring out ways, how am I reaching a new audience? How am I pushing this forward? I'm going to test my first live ticketed event at the beginning of November in Columbus. So, the version here isn't just, hey, it's a podcast show and we're at a theater or something. It's actually going to be at that person's restaurant. So, you get to eat and understand their story while you're having their food. So, just creating those moments and creating content that can make someone else feel great at the end of the day is my ultimate goal right now. And to see, if I keep leaning into this passion, if I keep leaning into what feels like this personal mission to tell other people's stories well, that will come back and that will be what's part of the fulfilling career.
That's beautiful. I think that you're on the right path. Sarah, where can listeners learn more about you, your services, or connect with you directly?
Thank you. Yes. So you can always email me at perfectbitepod@gmail.com. I'm on social media at perfectbitepod. So that's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I've got a Substack going as well right now, too, where my writing's a little bit more creative leading into the episodes themselves. And I need to work on my URL, but I am sarahaperkins.squarespace.com for my services right now.
I want to thank everyone for listening. Please be sure to follow all things Hospitality Bites through hospitalitybites.com or connect with me on social media. Follow my friends at Walk and Talk Show for their incredible content, including today's podcast episode. Thank you, Sarah, again. And to everyone listening, please be kind to yourself and kind to one another.
Thank you.
Thank you.